On this episode, I am going to talk to you about how reading will change your life, your business life, your personal life forever. Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of the Steele Entrepreneur Show. My name is Adam Steele and this is episode 27. On this episode, I am going to talk to you a little bit about reading, about books, about adopting a good reading practice. Now, reading is important to me because I didn't do it. I didn't do it for pretty much my entire life, unless you count like Harry Potter or something like that. But otherwise, I didn't read books in school. When I got into college, I didn't read books in college, which is probably why I dropped out and failed. And when I got into business, I didn't read books either. And I am only now 7 years down the road starting to see the effects of that, or at least starting to see what I missed out now that I'm starting to pick up books. At the time, I was under this impression that hustle was all that was important. That going, that doing, that moving faster was all that I needed to care about. Not taking the time to look at what I was doing, read from others who've done it, and apply their knowledge, apply their experiences, apply their learnings from their mistake to what I was doing. And unfortunately, I made a lot of mistakes I didn't need to make. And unfortunately, I'm only seeing that now. So why should you give a shit? Well, reading is an opportunity to learn from people who've already been there. And there's a hell of a lot of people who've been where you've been, typically speaking, at least in business. They've been a business owner. They've gone through some of the pitfalls that we go through as business owners, right? The other thing is, how else are you going to have access to these people like Warren Buffett, to Tim Ferriss, to Arnold Schwarzenegger? How otherwise are you going to be able to pick their brains? You're not going to be able to just pick up a phone and give them a call, right? Books, interviews, they reveal all these, brilliant tricks, these mistakes they've made in the past. And here's your opportunity to learn from those mistakes. Don't make them, but if you do make them, you have tips and tricks for how to navigate your way through those mistakes and come out better than perhaps they did. Now, believe me, you are going to try and find excuses not to read. I know every single damn excuse in the book, but it's actually easy. First, what you need to do is set aside some reading time. Make it a daily activity. Don't make it a, I want to read 4 books a day. That shit doesn't work. Don't make it like, I want to read 4 books a month even. That doesn't work. What you need to do is just make it, I'm going to read 1 hour a day. I'm going to read 30 minutes a day. And just make that your goal. Start with that. You'll know, if you try to, go to the gym, for example, and all of a sudden you decided, I'm going to go 5 times a week. How often does that work? How many weeks do you last before you give up? It's the same thing with reading. Start slow. Make small commitments and then grow those commitments a little bit. I also recommend trying different places. Not everybody reads in the same spots. I find I get my best reading done on the airplane. Now, obviously, I'm not going to be able to fly every day, so I have to find other places. So experiment. Try the library. Try at home when you know no one's going to be at home. Try different backgrounds. Sometimes a little music works for me. I like a little soft classical, nothing too excitable, but maybe you like ambient noise. Maybe a coffee shop is a place for you. So try different things. Don't try one place and if it doesn't work for you, you're done. Try different places and find out where you're most productive, where you absorb the most information. The next thing is make it part of your work. It's not leisure. Don't think about it as leisure. If you think about it as leisure, you won't do it. It will get put off like everything else that is leisurely in your life because you are an entrepreneur, you're a business owner, you got shit to do, right? And leisure stuff, it gets put off. So make it part of your work. Put it in your calendar. Make it like the first hour of your day. That's when I like to get it done, between 7 and 8 a.m. Or Another great place to put it, at the end of your day. So, close your laptop at, say, 10 p.m. and then for the next 1 hour, 2 hours, read. It's gonna calm you down. It's gonna make sure that when you do hit the pillow, your mind isn't still in work land, and you'll sleep better, and you need freaking sleep. All right, now let's figure out how we're going to do it. I will tell you how it worked for me. It may not necessarily work for you, but I have a feeling some of these things will come across, so I do recommend you give it a shot. The first thing is audit. Audit and eliminate. Auditing and eliminating is essentially looking at what is on your plate currently. Chances are your plate's already full, and that's actually a really good way to look at it. Is I think Tim Ferriss says something like your dance card is already full. So assume that you don't have any space, and that probably is true. So you need to eliminate something. So what I would first do is spend the better part of 2 weeks, 4 weeks just auditing. And I've talked about this in past episodes, so check out past episodes if you want a little bit more information on this. Just audit what it is that you do, and the best way to do that is to use a time tracker, something like FreshBooks, for example, or I'm sure there are like free time trackers. I think FreshBooks actually is free, and just record everything you do, just in time blocks, right? And then eliminate. So basically go back in time, look at 30 days worth of work essentially, and figure out what you don't need to be doing, right? And it isn't until you start eliminating those things, finding those things that are less important than higher learning, than your education, than being more intelligent, being better at your job, grab those things, get rid of them, and plug the chunks of reading time in between those, or rather in place of those. And there you go. It's really that simple. It may take a little bit of time. It takes a little bit of time to audit. It takes a little bit of time to eliminate, but the only way that you're going to commit to this is if you actually make time to do it. And that is the best way I have come across for doing that. My next recommendation, and it's a small one, but it's a very, very important one, is to pick something relevant. Too often we pick a book because a buddy recommends it or a colleague recommends it, and we get through it and it just doesn't feel applicable. Like it doesn't feel like it's something that I can apply to my life right away, and thus I don't get any of the gratification out of it. Like I don't get something that I can pull out of it, apply to my daily life, and benefit from it. So pick something that, if you're just trying to get into reading, then chances are something about productivity, something about effectiveness, something about making better use of your time would be a good place to start. And ask your friends. Don't spend all this time trying to, read books that you don't know are good or not. Ask your friends. Ask people who read a lot. Ask them what their favorite books are in productivity, in efficiency, in effectiveness, in et cetera, and have them vet the books for you. Don't waste time. You don't want the first book you pick up to be a book that you don't get anything from, because then you won't continue. You just won't. As I touched on in my last point, gratification is really important. You need to get something out of it. And the little process, I suppose you could call it, that I've created to help me get something out of it is while I'm going through a book, and I'll show you an example. While I'm going through a book, I am constantly highlighting stuff. Anything that's actionable, anything that I want to make sure that I remember so that when I come back to it, and we'll talk about that a little bit more in a second, I can pull it out. I don't have to reread the book, right? And so I will tag something, or I'll highlight something like this right here. And then I will tag it with one of these essentially, like that. And so it'll look like, you can see a whole bunch of tags. And so then what I will do is once I finish the book, instead of expecting myself to remember everything I read and now action it, I just go back through the tags, and it takes me 5, 10, maybe 20 minutes. And I will just go through each item and I will reread it, and I will try and remember what it was that I thought was really actionable there. Now, here's a little tip. Sometimes I find myself not remembering the context in which I highlighted that thing, like why I thought that was applicable, what I wanted to do with that. And so I'll just take one of these, just a Post-it note, and I will basically just write something on it and stick it in here. And then when I get to that point, I will have that and I'll be able to read it and be like, oh yeah, I know exactly what I wanted to do with that. The next thing I'll do is I will action it. So I will literally open my calendar, I will write down what it is I wanted to do, or I'll put it on a to-do list, for example, like my to-do list for the week or my to-do list for the day, and I will book some time to action that thing. It's really important. You're gonna start reading a lot more, and that means a lot more inputs. You have to do something with those inputs, or this whole thing is for no reason, right? Okay, maybe you learn to read faster. Great. But you're wasting the opportunity to take the teachings from these books and actually do something with them. So do that. Try and find maybe someone to teach. You know, like in this example, this is actually very selfish. I'm teaching you, and that's helping me learn the material better, right? And then finally, give a book away, because what's going to happen is that person's going to come back to you, and you're going to have an opportunity to discuss the material, which is great because that's going to help them learn better. So you've paid it forward, and it's an opportunity for you to learn it better as well. And finally, and probably the most important of all, is commit and stay committed. And I have some sort of tips and tricks that have worked very well for me. And the first is to commit to somebody else about it. Or rather, commit to them that you're going to do X, Y, and Z. Somebody that you respect, somebody that you look up to, perhaps somebody who's sort of on a similar journey, and you'll find that you don't want to disappoint them. Right? You don't want them to think less of you for not completing what you committed to. And it also, there's like this, I don't know, I remember I read about it in a book called, I think, Influence, something like that. And it's like this, once we commit to something, we have to do it. We feel like we have to do it. And they talk about things like signing a contract, for example. Even if the contract doesn't mean shit, just like write something, put your name and a signature and give that to someone. Even if it doesn't mean anything, it means something like subconsciously. It's really weird. So try that and just say, hey, buddy, can you check back in with me in like 30 days? And so now you have like a clock running. You know that you have to finish this book in 30 days. And that's that. I say, don't try and do it like by the book. And by that I mean like don't say I'm going to read four books per month, but like one book per month. I think that's pretty reasonable. Again, don't pick like a giant book your first time around, but one book, especially something, as small as this, 80 pages, you're going to get through that in a month guaranteed, right? So that's one good way to do it. Another thing that I find works for me is joining like a book club or something. Now, I haven't actually joined one, so like full disclosure there. But if I was, I would probably seek out friends, seek out colleagues, other people in business, and just say, hey, do you want to do this with me? Do you want to like commit to reading, a book, the same book each month, and we'll talk about it after. And chances are you're going to find somebody that's having the same commitment issues as you. And if you guys can help each other out, not only are you guys going to read more, but you're also going to have the opportunity to talk about that book after and sort of share your own perspective, share what you uniquely learned from the book and what they uniquely learned from the book. And chances are you're going to learn different things. You're going to pick up different things. So what you missed, they didn't miss, and what they missed, you didn't miss. So you're going to get a lot more out of it as well. And finally, and again, this is kind of what this, in part what this whole thing is about, is I am socially committing to you. I do my office hours, my weekly readings at 5:30 Pacific Standard Time, 8:30 Eastern Standard Time on Wednesdays on Facebook Live. And that's my commitment to you, that I will have a book ready to go, whether it's half a book or a full book. I'll have a book and notes ready to go to read to you and let you know what I learned, what that means to me. And hopefully you'll learn something as well. So it's socially committing. It's letting everybody know, it's letting a large group know that, hey, I'm going to do this, and if I don't, I'm going to feel like a turd. So that's what works for me, and I really, really hope, I feel like it's my goddamn mission in life right now, is to get more people reading. So if I can just help one person, I know I've helped a few so far, dig their nose into more books, I will feel really damn good, and I'll feel like I did something really good with this show and with this little audience that I'm building. So as always, I really appreciate your time. I really appreciate your attention. If you got something out of this, leave a comment, subscribe, like, thumbs up, whatever. It would mean a great deal to me, mean a great deal to the team that puts this show together, and have a wonderful week. Thanks, everyone.